What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our Big Ten channel. We're going to preview the 2024 schedule for the Michigan State Spartans. Before we get to that, let's look back at the schedule from 2023. So here was Michigan State's schedule from last season. Of course, they played Washington in the non-conference. Turned out to be a really tough game. And they played Central Michigan and Richmond. Out of the Big Ten West this past season, they had to play at Iowa. Obviously, that was a really tough one. At Minnesota, they lost that game as well. So two tough games there against the West. They did beat Nebraska, so that was the good news against the West. But, of course, you can throw all that out the window. We have a new Big Ten, no more divisions. Let's get to this 2024 schedule. So here it is. We're going to break it down starting with the non-conference. They'll play Florida Atlantic, Prairie View A&M, and on the road at Boston College. That could be a big game for these two programs. The winner of that one, maybe they go on to have a pretty good season. The loser could be a really, really rough year. So let's look at the home games. Again, those non-conference games, they have Ohio State at home, Iowa at home, Indiana, Purdue, and Rutgers. So you look at Indiana, Purdue, Rutgers, three potentially winnable games at home in the conference. You add in FAU and Prairie View A&M. Their home schedule gives them a chance to get very close to bowl eligibility if they can win some of these games that I think will be winnable. I'm not saying they're going to win, but they're winnable games. You look at the road schedule, again, there's Boston College, and like I said, that game is really going to set the tone, I think, for the season. At Maryland, at Oregon, at Michigan, at Illinois. So all those games will be tough on the road. You look at Illinois, Boston College, potentially games that they could win. But overall, you know, it's not a horrible schedule, really. I mean, again, you look at having to play Oregon, Michigan, Ohio State. That's obviously tough, but no Penn State, no USC. You know, it could be worse, and the non-conference, again, is not too bad. So they'll start with Florida Atlantic on August 31st, and they'll play on the road at Maryland on the 7th. So they actually play their first Big Ten Conference game pretty early in the season. That's going to be a tough one right there against Maryland. But then Prairie View A&M on the 14th, and then there's that game against Boston College, September 21st. So if they lose to Maryland, but they win their other two non-conference games, they're going into Boston College. You win that game and you're 3-1. A 3-1 start gives them a chance again to have a pretty good season. Lose that game, you're 2-2, and then you got to play Ohio State and Oregon back to back. So Ohio State on the 28th, then October the 5th on the road at Oregon. That's one of the tougher back-to-backs, I think, in all of college football right there. They play Iowa after a bye week at home, and then after that, it's on the road at Michigan. So another tough back-to-back, Iowa and Michigan. That stretch right there from Ohio State to Michigan is really, really tough. They do get a bye week in between there, but that's not really going to help them much, honestly. Maybe it gives them a chance to pull off an upset against Iowa, but that's, again, a very tough stretch. They play Indiana on November 2nd at home. Then they get their second bye week before they close out the season. And again, if they can beat Indiana, if they can maybe beat Boston College, Florida Atlantic, Prairie View A&M, you've got a bye week to set you up for these final three games that they could potentially win. At Illinois on the 16th, Purdue on the 23rd, and Rutgers on the 30th. So yes, the middle part of the schedule from Ohio State to Michigan, those four games, very, very tough. But you look at the first four games, so some winnable games in there for sure. And then the final four games, some winnable games in there as well. So you see how this schedule, it's almost good for a team like this, because look, Michigan State's not going to go 9-3 or 10-2. So that, you know, if you have four really tough games, let's just get those out of the way in the middle of the season and really focus on the first four games and the last four games. That's really going to be the main part of the season for Michigan State that's going to determine what kind of season they have. Because, again, those games in the middle, I don't really see them winning any of those anyways. Maybe Iowa. But, again, a very tough middle of the schedule, but a very nice start, a very nice finish. And if they can start well and end well, could wind up being a pretty good season for Michigan State in 2024.